All right, Lisa, welcome to the podcast. We have Tristan here as well. I've already introduced you guys in the audio part of this, but I'm welcoming Lisa Lavender from Wildography on Bitclout and Tristan Wood from Saving the Survivors on uh, Bitclout. But I wanted to start with you, Lisa, because this is how I got introduced to all of this. Uh, just want to learn a little bit about you, what your past is, how you came to Bitclout.
Okay, my name is Lisa Lavender. I came to Bitclout in early April. Actually got introduced to it from
Hmm.
an NFT room.
So you're
Someone
kind
gave
of you're what they call an OG then, like me.
sort of, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's after I think right at the beginning. Most people joined, some people joined in March, but I joined in April. I was in a NFT room and someone came to introduce BitCloud. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Let me go and check it out. Because I thought it would be a great way to actually spread the word about saving the survivors to a different kind of audience. So I joined and they were very welcoming and did realize a lot of people obviously do not know about the plight of wildlife so it was ripe, and I did gain support um, from the members and some of the groups organizations which are there promoting. I think they called Cloudcast. Oh, I can't remember. Um, they promote creators who are doing projects, which for the
Hmm.
community projects. So they helped out, and I think they even donated some money. I think it was $50 or something
All
like
right.
that.
So when early April, that was back when you would learn about BitCloud in a room, and most of the people in the room who may have known about BitCloud would simply start saying that's a scam and all of that sort of thing. Were you getting a
Yeah,
bit of that?
there was a lot of that going. Yeah,
And so,
but
what made you overcome that and say, "Oh, I'm still going to try this out"?
I'm a curious one, so I thought if it's a scam, we'll soon be soon find out, isn't it? So
Yeah.
just thought let's be patient and just stay and see, and if it turns out to be a scam, then it's just a matter of getting out.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know but and I've obviously delayed doing proper NFTs up to now. Actually, we haven't done any official NFTs, but there's been a lot of collaborative ones and a few that have been donated by some creators who are wildlife
Yeah.
loving individuals. So
Right on.
yeah, so
So
so far it's been good.
now,
Slow but good. Mm.
you're the self-described, or maybe actually not just self-described, but the official ambassador for saving the survivors. So what made you want to devote your energy to just essentially this one project and charity?
Well, first of all, one of the main things that really got me is the surprise to discover that they don't get government funding, and so they rely, wholly on public support, and they are one of the only such organization that are doing what they're doing, and they're specialists at it as well. So, and not only, and they are also helping other smaller charities, with their skills. So, and I met the founder when, because I volunteer for another wildlife charity. They publish books, and the funds are distributed amongst to the various conservation bodies. Um, they're called Remembering Wildlife. And the founder of Saving the Survivors, one of the co-founders, um, Joanne Murray, he came to London for Remembering Rhinos, and he did such a moving speech at the Royal Geographical Society, and literally brought people into tears and everything. And yeah, from that day, that's when I decided, oh, I
Mm.
definitely need to support this organization. And Yeah, and we've been interacting, on Facebook mainly, and then Instagram. So I thought, yeah, I should put, a lot of my energy on it. And
And so your Wildography is your brand on
yeah,
Bitclout and Instagram and in other places. But that implies to me you're a wildlife photographer. Is that the case, or is it that you just curate
yeah,
wildlife
I
photography?
curate and I help to promote photographers, conservation photographers predominantly, and also other wildlife charities, sanctuaries, and anyone who's into conservation really, and
Right.
some ordinary photographers as well, and photographic guides, anyone within that industry.
Right. And so you already had a heart for wildlife and endangered species and the like. And
Yeah,
I
I
think
was actually born next to a wildlife reserve, so I grew up, seeing wildlife and also seeing some of the injuries and um, yeah, so I'm a bit experienced in the plight of wildlife.
yeah, and so you kind of already got it. I'll have to admit that I think all of us have um, a sympathetic heart for what goes on, but we lack awareness. And I have to say that, in looking at some of the things on the Saving the Survivors website and social media, it's very compelling and gut wrenching to watch.
Mm,
These animals go through excruciating injuries,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
to learn of, what most of us in the world would think is like needless poaching for
Mm,
something that most of us feel is not necessarily an important uh, element for people to transact in the rhino horns. So that really struck me. I'll have to say it made me start thinking differently just seeing that. What do you think have been people's reactions on BitClout, for instance, when you try to expose some of this?
well, a lot of it is shock. A lot of people actually they don't, they are not aware of the full extent. Um, they don't know what actually goes on in the ground, um, and what the animals face and the difficulties that the organizations that are trying to do something about it, and and the dangers as well
Mm.
that is involved. So yeah, so
So let's get Tristan involved in this conversation. And Tristan, you're the director of Saving the Survivors, not the founder, but you came on board to really support the founder. Who's the founder?
So the founder is Dr. Johan Murray, who Lisa mentioned earlier was the gentleman who's speaking at an event. Really struck a chord with Lisa, as it did many people. I was at that event as well in London. Johan is a very emotional and motivational speaker when he's presenting and talking about his experiences in the field, and what they have to, our veterinarians and staff in the field have to deal with, hands-on in the field, with these animals that are, really the personification of the word awesome. These animals are, you know 2-ton rhino, or up to 6-ton elephant, or majestic, lion. These are awesome animals, and we're dealing with them in distress, or in severe traumatic injury. It's Yeah, it's emotional, and listening to Johan when he's talking about it, and obviously showing the pictures of what we go through. So yeah,
Yeah,
as you
I'm
said
showing
before,
I'm showing some of those on screen right now, and I mean it's just like It's like looking at a child who's missing their nose.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
It's difficult. So we do try on the social media and balance the good, happy stories, with the bad, and the blood and guts and gore. So because nobody wants to just be shown horrific images all the time. So we do try and balance, because we do have, we do work that has happy endings. We do work that has newborns, all that kind of thing. Everybody loves a newborn animal, what's quite a big but baby rhinos, or lion cubs or baby elephants. People love that kind of thing. So we try and balance what we do. So I was just wanted to touch on before, when you asked about wildography, I'd never asked what wildography meant as such. And I'd always thought, rather than it being sort of wildlife photography, I thought it was wildlife geography, because through Lisa's channels, what she really does is display the full geography of wildlife conservation, the whole landscape, from conservation organizations like ourselves, who we're blessed to have Lisa as a champion and as our official ambassador, and right the way through to she showcases wildlife photographers, everybody within the wildlife industry, really, across Lisa's channels. And as I said, we're blessed that she devotes a lot of her time and airtime on her channels to promoting and bringing awareness to our work.
Yeah, and the what I look at on Wildography, you see if I can. Well, I thought I had it pulled up here on Bitclout, and I'm going to do that because she does such a fantastic job of just bringing compelling imagery. And she likes, NFTs and all of that, but some of the imagery that she procures is so compelling, and especially in the like this one of the elephant by the wildfire, it's just amazing. And you see these and you realize some people have really spent a lot of effort and energy and passion to capture these photos. They're amazing. And also, if you check out her Instagram, it's just full of amazing photography. What else can you do to really compel people to want to get involved? Like how can you use Bitclout? How is, when you guys, we're on a Bitclout podcast.
Yeah.
How do you leverage Bitclout to try and engage people and use it in fundraising and awareness?
This is it. So we are in the field, in our field of, we're veterinarians, conservationists, and in the field, we very much consider ourselves pioneers, using breaking techniques, purely because, rhino conservation is a very new thing. It's only, the poaching crisis only started, in 2008-9. So nobody has been doing this a long time. Nobody has been looking after orphan rhinos or orphan elephants, for decades. Everybody's new, so everybody is pioneering. Everybody is trying to use techniques from other fields of medicine. We borrow a lot of techniques and equipment and so on from domestic animal medicine, as well as human medicine, because there is nothing specific for rhino. There is nothing specific for elephant. Within agricultural veterinary field, there are specified things for, say, cattle. And highly, farmed animals. But when it comes to wildlife, there's no specific dental tools for rhino or elephant, or, there's no specific suturing tools, that kind of thing. So we're always, borrowing from other industries, exploring new areas to try and forward the mission. And we very much apply the same ethos to our fundraising. Obviously, the first go-to is our traditional fundraising channels of, sort of vanilla fundraising, like every charity does, through traditional social media channels as they are now, outreach and education, getting out into the public, all those kind of things. But we also look for any new opportunity to reach more people or new people, and ultimately, any effort that we put into reaching out has to either yield awareness and reaching more people and educating, or funds ultimately, because without, as Lisa alluded to before, we have no governmental support. Without donations, without grants from corporations and so on, without donations of not only money but equipment, and so on, we just couldn't do our work. So that's where it's important to get out the real image of what we're doing on the ground and what our guys are up against on the ground, as real as we can. And social media is very good at that. You can engage with your followers. It's your shop window. Not many people can come to Africa and stand side by side with us and us show them what we're doing. They can. It's super expensive and hard for people to do it, but the majority, 99.9% of people, will be viewing our work through the window of social media. Obviously, your Facebooks and Instagram, Twitter, so on, traditional social media channels are very successful at raising funds and engaging with followers. So we obviously promote those. However, anything like this, and like Lisa said initially, if in your conversation with yourself, that she had a go at it, and if it turned out to be a scam, then at least she's tried. So Lisa obviously introduced us to Bitclout and said, well, initially Clubhouse, and that's where and then onto Bitclout, and very much the same thoughts from us was, if it takes a few hours of my time to get signed up and feel my way through it and see what it's all about, and a few dollars of our money, so we see, and if we get that money back, then great. If we don't, then we haven't really wasted too much time or effort. And thankfully, through Lisa's championing of us, as well as the content that we've been putting up for the last, I think, 46 days, I think we've been on Bitclout for now, looking at the age of our oldest post, our first post. I think we're not doing too bad. So at the moment, it seems like a fruitful endeavor. We're engaging with people. We're meeting new people. We're not expanding existing areas of audience. We're breaking new ground, which is even more exciting.
Okay, let me stop you there. Yeah, that's something I didn't really consider, because to me, it felt like for a moment you were speaking of, well, it's just one more channel for us to kind of do the same thing.
No,
but you're saying this is new territory, new audience.
Absolutely,
It's not the same old just one more channel thing.
No, it's so much more exciting. If I wanted to reach more people, the same people that we've got now, I could put money into Facebook advertising. I could put money into Instagram, because they have logarithms and so on, that if I pay them, they will put my message in front of more people who match the demographic of the people who already view my content, which is great. But I don't really want to buy followers. All our growth has always been organic, through word of mouth and through genuine, being relevant to the audience, and people genuinely buying into what we're doing, wanting to support what we're doing, and about us being comes down to us being very transparent about who we are, what we're doing, and people feel, when they support us financially or sharing our mission, they feel a real ownership to the cause. Anybody can put $10 in a World Wildlife Fund, collection box. You probably pass 2 or 3 a day, but there's no connection there. Whereas what we love is that we are very relatable, contactable. The donor journey between somebody, or the supporter journey rather, between somebody connecting with us through social media or however they connect with us through a podcast or whatever, it really relates very quickly to the work we're doing in the field, and again, support is seen. It makes a difference on the ground. Whereas, as I said, with larger charities, you've got no idea where that money's going, and a great deal of it goes to paying staff, which we don't have, other than the people who were literally the guys who are working on the ground. So we're very proud of that.
So, and I applaud you for putting the effort you're putting into Bitclout, like any other person on it at this stage, because there is such a small audience. And we're all doing it with the hope that it'll become a very large audience, and we're first movers.
Absolutely, and it's nothing ventured, nothing gained at the end of the day. I mean, Lisa has an amazing audience on Instagram and Facebook and the other social media channels. But obviously, that's what Lisa does. We have, obviously, we're a veterinarian wildlife charity, and social media isn't necessarily what we do, but we have sort of upwards of, across all channels, upwards of 250,000 followers. So we have a good following and support base on traditional social media channels, and so we don't see why Bitclout would be any different. It's a different demographic, maybe a different audience, which is more exciting than daunting, to be honest. And from initial interactions with people, I think it's been well received. I think the community is generous. I think part of the with the diamonds and the currency, so on, with the creator receiving a commission, so on. That the basis of the community is supportive, and generous. So it was an exciting platform to get into.
Right, and that seems evident to those of us who know the platform. And you say you're reaching a different audience, an additional audience, and one that you can engage in. To what degree have you felt like you've been able to leverage the power of being able to accept donations or actual support using this as opposed to other platforms?
So obviously, as yet, it's to be sort of proven. However, just through the coin, the creator coin, and people donating it in that currency as such, we've done pretty successfully. Our coin is a relatively high percentage comes back to us, but at the end of the day, we are a charity, and we any work we do really as I said before, needs to be profitable. So yeah, we're happy with the sort of financial return so far on where we are, and that's just scalable as the platform moves and as it grows. So yeah, I mean, obviously, other platforms which are have been around for many years have more tools to allow more people to be able to fundraise or donate in different ways. However, obviously, Bitclout is centered around the currencies that it is. So yeah, I think we're happy with where we're at and excited about where it can go.
Sure. And I saw, look at you. You have a 33.33%
Yeah,
founders reward. So you
yeah.
feel like has that been like your real revenue source at this stage?
On Bitclout,
Yeah.
no, we've had some. Lisa would probably be able to quantify it better, but we have had some, NFTs donated, and the funds from those, the clout from those, have come
Okay.
through to us. And also, Lisa had some people she engaged with who they donated clout. So yeah,
Hmm.
we've yeah. So
So I
so
see you haven't created any yet.
NFTs.
Right.
No, not we haven't created any just yet.
Right.
No, I think you only have one opportunity to make an entrance, and especially things can't be deleted in the cyber world. So I think we'll get comfortable first
Sure.
before we do anything official.
So because I see some enormous opportunities here for people to get involved with what you're doing through NFTs.
Hmm.
Kind of like back in the day when people would sponsor a child in Ethiopia who's starving to death or something like that.
Yeah,
Now, you've got, it seems to me you've got opportunity. Like, doesn't it seem to you like people or a club or an organization, communities might want to get behind the saving of one animal and
yeah,
follow that, and that animal's NFT is what underwrites it, or an NFT that supports the saving of one animal yet to be determined, and that they get to follow that journey, and in the buying and selling of it, the organization is enriched, and they
yeah,
get to,
absolutely.
and it almost becomes, I want to sell this for more money, not because I want to make more money, but because the organization gets more money. Like you almost set your reward within that NFT at like 95% or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there is and I've seen it in a few different areas in crypto space where philanthropy through trading is around at the moment. So it's definitely something that we've discussed, and as you said, with traditional fundraising, having a capital campaign for a specific animal or a specific piece of equipment or a specific area of our work. These are all things that, yeah, absolutely, we see having on Bitclout, one day, whether that's,
Mhm.
in the next few days or next few weeks. We have areas. So when traditional donors approach us through traditional means, they are able to fund a specific area of our work, and our emergency work, or just our work with a specific species. They particularly love African wild dogs, so they want their donation to be um, pointed towards that work. So we have a series of pots that money can go into, and again that pulls back to the real ownership
Yeah.
of the supporter to the part of the cause that they want to support. So we think that's great, lovely, transparent journey for supporters. So yeah, absolutely. If we could have, for instance, we have one survivor who is a big sort of celebrity for us, a beautiful Rhino bull called Saya.
Let me
And
see now. That's on your site,
yeah,
correct?
well, yeah,
Uh,
he's that's Hope.
that's Hope, who you lost.
She did pass, but she passed due to complications unrelated to her poaching. So, and to be honest, after we had finished caring for her post her poaching.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Saya now, who has
So
an
yes, Saya.
unbelievably compelling photo.
So Saya, what I mean, just the hairs on my arms standing up, because this guy I've been with Sayer 2 or 3 times for his follow-up operations, and this guy was poached on a big farm on a big reserve in South Africa. He's actually been walking around like that for 2 weeks by the time we were made aware of his condition. The owner of the property just wanted us to euthanize him. But, you know, the genes that he holds for this, you know, dwindling global population are so valuable that we just have to save them if we can. So we took Sayer from his owner, and Sayer belongs to Saving the Survivors. Sayer's he's his own man, but we are his custodians. And this is back in 2016. So he had a horrific open cavity, as you can see there. I mean, that's if people can bear to look. He had both.
I'm getting sick to my stomach just looking.
Both his horns removed, exposing his full nasal cavity. There, you can see his sinuses and everything. It's amazing that he lived through the loss of blood and such a traumatic injury. But being Sayer, who is he's a 2-ton southern white rhino bull, on a hell of a character. He pulls through that, and painstakingly, with a great deal of work, has got to where he is today. Which I'm not sure whether there is a picture on there, but there definitely is on our site. There definitely is on our Bitclout or on our other social media channels. His wound is closed up considerably. It's still open. It'll never close because there's just no scaffolding for the skin to grow over, unfortunately. Sayer is just amazing. So that's one thing we've kind of gone down the road here.
Sure. Well, I mean, so this is about Bitclout and social and all that, but enough about that part.
Yeah.
I don't think we've done a good job so far of telling our viewers.
Yeah.
Two important things. One important thing I learned yesterday was about why. Well, let's be frank. For so many years, it was about ivory and poaching elephants and ivory, and so I'm sure a lot of our listeners are like, "Why rhinos?" And there's a new thing that, like, go walk us through that first, and then tell us how, like, the specific sort of like, or what's a day in the life of the organization in going out to save a white rhino who's been through this.
Okay, so yes, you're right. It was always, globally reported. The ivory poaching, which, the elephant population globally right now is in excess of 400,000 African elephants. So, although, at the turn of the century, that would have been 4 million elephants. And through hunting and ivory, legal and illegal, over the century, elephants have been brought down to what is 10% of their population at the turn of the century. But right now we have 400.
So when you say turn of the century, you mean the turn of this century?
Sorry, 19th. Oh, yeah, sorry. So 19th into 20. So okay. 18th into 19th century.
Okay, so over 120 years. Over
120 years, yes. Yeah. Yes. Over the last 120 years, they've come from 4 million down to 400,000. So, but in relation to other species, elephants, fairly healthy population, especially in southern Africa. In the northern and central parts of Africa, Central Africa, that's where they're missing now, and southern African countries, some would argue, have too many elephants. That's their opinion. So elephant is a different subject altogether, with a much larger population than for instance, rhino. So in Africa, you've got 3 species of rhino currently. We have the northern white rhino, where there is just 2 left in the world, 2 females, both of whom are infertile. So that species, since 2018, when the last male died, a bull called Sudan, when he died, that subspecies was functionally extinct because there's only 2 females left. And then you have the black rhino, and numbers. It's difficult to quote numbers because numbers come out very infrequently, and there's so many factors. But let's say 5,000 black rhino left in Africa. And southern white rhino, which is the one most people think of when you think of a rhino, there's around 15,000 left. So rhino, compared to elephant, much more threatened than elephant. So as you said, yeah, elephant were the animal that got a lot of press for the ivory poaching. So rhino horn has always been a commodity within the wildlife trade for decorative as well as traditional medicine uses. So it's something that can be fashioned into jewelry as a status symbol, or used in traditional medicine. So that's always been there, that issue, that subject. However, back in 2008, 9, I can't remember exactly when, a Vietnamese politician claimed that his taking of rhino horn, ground rhino horn, as a traditional medicine cured his cancer, and that was the first shot in the rhino poaching war. That just opened up a gold rush on rhinos, and the poaching crisis just went. And very soon, within the first few years, we were seeing over 1,000 rhino poached, illegally poached, every year, and that continued for a number of years. Come down recently due to 2 factors. One's COVID, and also the fact that the rhino population is so much smaller that, so fewer are being poached, but because there's fewer there, as a percentage, it's still just as much of a problem. So the rhino horn in the illegal wildlife trade, it is trafficked, back to where the demand is for status symbols and traditional medicine. Traditional medicine, to be honest, isn't the biggest demand right now. It's through the status symbols of jewelry and trinkets, I suppose, that are desired by this very newly wealthy middle and upper classes in the East. It's they're given as gifts in business or family. So the status symbols, that is the biggest, through our investigation, that's the biggest demand. So this product is no different to drugs or guns or any other black market or illicit product. The kingpins behind this, the cartels, are exactly the same cartels that are trafficking guns and drugs and so on. They purely see rhino horn as a commodity that fits their business model. So it's a commodity that they can procure by paying very desperate, very poor people in Africa, in African countries, what is to the people doing the poaching a life-changing amount of money, but in comparison to the value of the rhino horns, very little. So, a poacher might be getting paid $1,000 or $2,000 to actually go out and commit the act of poaching and procure the horn for the cartel to then traffic through their black market channels back to where the demand is, and then the horn will sell at that end for $100,000 to $300,000. So paying somebody who's very poor, desperate person, a few hundred or a few $1,000s to commit these horrific acts, that fits the business model of these cartels. It's something that they can procure very cheaply and sell for a great profit. One of my friends who's involved with Saving the Survivors, Paul Naden, one of the other directors, he always says that an empty stomach has no ears. So these people who are all they want to do is feed their family, and as Paul said, and just like all of us, our number one driver in life is to feed our families and children. So in the position that some people find themselves, you don't condone things, but you can understand. So that's the rhino horn industry black market in a nutshell for you.
And these poachers, they're not professionals like you're referring. They're just the average person who's hungry and has an opportunity to make money.
Absolutely. So these poachers will be, groomed or brought into these cartels and gangs, and as I said, offered life-changing amount of money. I mean, these are areas where it's not uncommon for families to be living on $1 a day. So you show somebody, thousands of dollars, hundreds or thousands of dollars. That is, that's a good few years' wages to anybody. So know that the poachers are often, just given a gun, an axe, or a saw, and quite often only 1 or 2 bullets, which is why we often are able to save victims of poaching, because they've been shot once but managed to escape. And in Southern Africa, gun legislation is very similar to it is in the UK. So high-powered rifles and so on have to be registered, and the ammunition has to be registered as well. So to get hold of that ammunition, quite often it's procured from, somebody who has a weapon for a legitimate purpose, may make out that they've discharged a round in the field, but in fact that round has found its way to a poacher. So yeah, they're very ill-equipped for those guys on the ground. However, the cartels that sit behind them are very wealthy, very intelligent, have technology and communications equal to it, if not better than the law enforcement agencies who are chasing them, and they definitely have a more will to go about their business than generally the law enforcement have to catch them.
And so not to, I guess, some graphic starkness is called for here. Like what literally happens when they poach? Or I think we don't really grasp the full magnitude of how just horrible it is.
With Rhino now, because it's now been happening for over a decade, the poachers have got a system that works, which is to the information about the individual rhinos, locations, and so on is usually procured through inside information or observation, and then the actual act of bringing down a rhino, it's pretty horrific. So as I said before, usually just 1 or 2 bullets. So the poachers will aim for the shoulder of the front shoulder of the rhino, and if it's a high-powered rifle, obviously, and it shatters the shoulder, then the rhino will go down on its front legs with just 1 bullet. This won't kill the rhino. Rhinos are tough, as everybody knows. That's true. But it will, break the shoulder joint. So the rhino will go down. Then they will go about the act of removing the horn with whatever tools they have, whether that's an axe or a chainsaw. Usually not a chainsaw because that's too noisy, but usually an axe or a sword or a machete. So it's not clinical by any means.
There's no anesthesia. I mean, this animal's writhing in pain. And
absolutely,
how do they even secure the animal? How do they keep the animal from fighting back?
Well, so the animal is brought down effectively to its front knees, and if they don't need to, then they can usually hack away the face to remove the horns. That's why, as you see with Sayer, the injury you saw on Sayer, the amount that was removed, not just the horn, is because of the inaccuracy of the hacking of getting the horn away or the horns away. But if the animal is still quite mobile, they usually try and have a machete or an axe chop to the back of the neck, which will cut the spinal cord, and the animal will be paralyzed.
And so their goal is to kill the animal. They're just not very good at it.
Poaching is a very blunt instrument. Yeah, so they're not bothered whether the animal lives or dies. Really, they're about speed. So the more that they have to risk or pay any attention or fighting with the animal, that's the worse for them. So ideally, a poacher would like to have a clean shot to the shoulder, which will bring the animal down, and that'll be enough. Maybe some secondary blows to the top of the neck, the back of the head, to fully immobilize the animal. So, and the majority of rhino live through this. It's horrific. I mean, just to give you an idea of what rhino horn is. It is in essence, it's the same as our hair or nails. It's So
and so the next stage is someone's got to report it, and these things happen in vast territories of uninhabited territories, so to speak, right?
That's true. However, rhino right now are closely guarded and monitored. So it doesn't take long for a poaching incident to come to light, because they will have chosen their time to commit their act at a certain time when there was a window of opportunity. Gone are the days when there was that many rhino roaming around that poachers could kill some without it being discovered for days. So especially after the Kruger National Park used to have over 10,000 rhino, and it was thought that they had more than 10,000 rhino, and that's why the poachers really focused on the Kruger National Park in South Africa. But earlier on this year, they released their official numbers from 2019. So these numbers are already 2 years out of date and already been subject to 2 more years of poaching. We all thought they had over 10,000 rhino. They reported their official numbers for 2019 were actually 3,500. So,
so this is a bad trend.
Yeah, so that gave rise to the current crisis that we're facing right now. Is that the majority? I said before, there's say 15,000 white rhino in existence, and we thought 10,000 were in the Kruger, but now there's only 3,500 in the Kruger. So that leaves another 6,000 or so in the hands of private custodians. So, small safaris, farms, and people who genuinely just, are custodians of rhino. They have them on their land. If you own a large piece of land, it's good to have all the species within to keep the biodiversity up, especially keystone species like rhino and elephant. So these private owners have much smaller properties, and they're not government supported like the national parks. Their income is purely from tourism. People going on safari, or people going to these eco lodges and so on. And obviously, over the last 2 years, COVID has basically cut them all dry, with no tourism. So they're now left being the custodians of over half the world's rhino, with no funds. So and the poachers have now turned their sights on these smaller
hungry operators.
Yeah, who don't have the money to pay for the best security and so on. So that's
Are there
where
any of them that are just saying, "I'll just let it go. I'll take a payment"?
No. There's many who have given up and given their rhino to somebody else. So some of these owners may just have a small crash of 6 on a nice little a nice little lodge where you can go on holiday and go on safari and see nice animals. But having the rhino there is too much of a liability them now. So many private custodians have moved their rhino to other, given them away to other people. So these guys really are the last stronghold of the world's rhino, and we have sort of shifted our attention to supporting them more than we have in the past. So we support them with obviously the work we do, which is not just so obviously we respond to emergency situations, so poaching situations, which is not only we are best known for rhino and elephant, but it also lion, pangolin, well, any animal can be caught in a snare, because poaching obviously isn't just for the wildlife trade, for traditional medicines or status symbols. The biggest demand and drive of poaching is the bushmeat industry, which is again very poor, very hungry people wanting to feed their families or make money. So these rural communities, there are elements within them that poach wildlife from the bush to either sell for meat or to to feed their families. And their tool of choice is a snare, and the thing about snares is that they're just an indiscriminate killer. So ideally a poacher will have laid a snare hoping to catch an antelope or a buffalo to feed to feed the village or to feed the family or to sell, but there's no saying that the next animal to walk through that snare isn't a giraffe or a zebra or a rhino or an elephant. We often are called to elephants with snares around their trunks because they've just wandered through a bush and where a snare's been laid. We've many times been called to elephants that have been seen dragging trees through the bush
Wow.
because they've caught the snare, but the elephant is stronger than the tree that the snare was attached to, so that the
Wow.
elephant is dragging the tree. And obviously, these are horrific wounds inflicted on these animals. So so that's the emergency side of what we do, responding to traumatic injuries in wildlife. But we also do a great deal of proactive work. So obviously, we don't know when the phone's going to ring for an emergency job. So we do a great deal of proactive work. We work with, as we said before, private custodians and so on, helping them to, tag their put tracking collars on their animals, to do all their vaccinations, to do translocations, to breeding programs. Obviously, we help with newborns and births.
So are you sort of doing all of those sort of things on a normal basis, and then you get an emergency
yeah. So
call?
a normal work day would have a planned operation. So obviously there are animals get injured naturally, fighting each other and so on. So we do have work, and then again, there's the proactive conservation work with breeding programs, translocations, vaccinations, all that kind of thing. We also do outreach and education with both inner city children and also rural communities. So educating them around the value of wildlife and the value of what is in essence, their heritage and their country's greatest natural resource.
Yeah.
So yeah, we go into a lot of schools, like I say, both rural schools and inner city schools, to try and get kids involved and ownership of their natural heritage.
Yeah. Now, Lisa, did you have that when you were a youngster? Have that outreach in your
No,
school? No.
no, I didn't. But yeah, which the education is really important, because sometimes it's the children who end up dissuading their parents from from these old practices and everything. So, and then some of the children may they be inspired to even become rangers, or become wildlife defenders. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Have you been able to travel to? Now, you're also in the UK, right?
Yeah.
Is your base? And so, have you been able to travel to help out on a mission, or be a part of the team on the ground there?
Not as yet. I'm hoping next year. I've actually not even traveled to Africa at all in the past 3 years. So COVID stopped. I
Mm.
was planning to go a couple of years ago, but so perhaps next year. So hopefully I'll
What
be,
do you hope to do when you get there?
well, I probably want to go behind the scenes, because they do have programs where you can go and see the work of saving the survivors, follow them
Mhm.
and see what they get up to during
So
one
are
of their
these
special programs.
paid programs? Like if I've always dreamed of doing a photo safari. Now I'm like, well, maybe I'd rather go help out. Like, what can a person do that
Yeah, you
is
could
looking for some
combine the
adventure
two.
tourism?
Yeah, you combine the two, spend, a few days, working with behind the scenes with saving the survivors, and have a few days to go on a photographic trip on a, or ordinary safari.
And
So
so, does the organization facilitate some of that?
yes, Tristan will probably be able to tell you a bit more, because I think there are paid programs that are held. Tristan, do you want to explain a bit more
Yeah,
about?
yes, we do. We do. Obviously, as you alluded to, COVID has put pay to most of them. The most recent ones that we've carried out, that we've delivered, have been only open to domestic applicants in South Africa, due to people not being able to really travel from Europe and America. So, but outside of COVID, pre-COVID, and will be after, we offer special access opportunities where we have some planned work. So maybe some dehornings or some routine veterinary work with endangered species, lion, elephant, rhino, zebra, giraffe, cheetah, these kind of things. When we have a planned job, we can then build around it a special access experience where we can take a group of people to view and really experience what we're doing. But we also do have a good number of photographers, especially, who come and spend time with us. As Lisa said before, if there was certain photographers who we do quite a lot with, who are out in Africa to do a photo safari or something like that, they come and spend some time with us, maybe a couple of days to photograph our work and get a bit more hands-on experience. And again, there's that special access that we as the veterinarians have access to places where money can't buy, I suppose.
Yeah. So your target is high net worth individuals on a fundraising, obviously, get the most bang for your energy for trying to raise money. Is there an experience that's like super high, sort of exclusive access that you can offer to people who are high net worth and want that really unique experience?
Yeah, on the high net worth individuals or corporations quite often pay for experiences for their board, for instance, or their executives. That is very able to be tailored to the specifics of the requirements. Most people who want to experience something have a very defined idea of what they want to do. So they're either super interested in a specific species or a specific area or a specific country, and we usually start from there, and it's completely bespoke. Tourism and adventure tourism before COVID was really taking off, and you had, not with us, but Katy Perry spent upwards of $300,000, I believe, on an adventure experience type holiday, and a lot of other celebrities and high net worth individuals have gone down that route for a safari and all these sort of money can't buy type experiences that are really bespoke, and we offer the ability to experience the work we do up close, which again is kind of a money can't buy experience. But we also
how do I find out more about that? Like if I wanted to do it, or
so right now we don't sort of advertise any, because outside of South Africa, because there's just no point. We literally would be inundated with requests to join from people who just logistically wouldn't be able to join.
Sure.
So yeah, like I said, we do all the way from the high net worth, very bespoke experience, right the way to a few $100s for a couple of days in a group to experience what we do. So we do something for everybody who is able to get to Africa. We also do a great deal of outreach and education and engagement with supporters in country. So in America and in the UK, we offer a lot of interaction with supporters. We go into businesses to. One of the things that I like doing, we do a thing called a lunch and learn, which is where if a particular business has adopted us as their nominated charity that they're going to support, we'll go in on a Friday lunchtime, and we'll give their staff a presentation on what we do, and take some questions and show them some of what we do and everything. Again, just really getting that ownership between our supporters. I think there's many businesses and schools and so on where people are asked to bring in $5 on Friday, and you can wear your own clothes or whatever at a school or a business, and people have no engagement there to what they're doing. But if we're actually coming in saying, right, we're gonna give you a presentation and take questions and talk to you for an hour at lunchtime, they feel a lot better about bringing in that $5 on a Friday, and and they know where it's going and what good it's doing.
So I could listen for another 2 hours to your story, and I know we need to wrap this up. But what I feel like I really want to understand is, because we really haven't gotten to the heart of the saving the survivors is created by one founding veterinarian.
Yeah.
And my understanding is this one person is tasked with an enormous landmass to basically take care of these animals.
Yeah.
And so, and I think you told me earlier, you have some associate vets that pick up some of the slack.
Yeah.
But like, what try to paint in an audio, since this is an audio podcast, to paint a picture for a person like maybe in the UK or the US with like a comparative geography to say it's like I might use an analogy of it's like covering the state of Alabama or something like that. One person having to handle all the
Yeah.
animals in that area. And
Yeah.
then
So,
what they're really doing, like where they're where are they located specifically, like what town or region,
yeah.
and then
Okay.
what other countries are they having to cover?
Yeah. So we're based out of South Africa because it's the easiest country to work from down there, and obviously central to where the majority of the world's endangered species reside. So and obviously the Kruger National Park does hold a great deal of the wildlife that we serve. So our base as such is just outside of Pretoria in South Africa. On the ground we have around 15 vets and support staff who deliver the veterinary work on the ground. So the easiest way to describe how, because as you said, it seems like we have an enormous area to cover. So that's correct. However, veterinarians are a lot like, a specialist surgeon. So, a specialist surgeon will maybe work in many hospitals across many states. And he may have thousands of patients, which he only sees once a year. You understand? So it's one vet can cover a massive geographical area,
Right.
and obviously in emergency situations we travel by helicopter, by fixed wing aircraft, sometimes by road, but obviously when speed's of the essence, air travel is a lot quicker. So, and then as I discussed with you yesterday, if we're unable to physically get one of our actual vets, a saving the survivors vet or support staff to an incident, we do have a network of associate vets who we work alongside, and they work, basically badged over by us for that particular job, and we will use our funds, equipment, and so on to deliver a job that we can't get to. We cover geographically an enormous area, but when you
like by helicopter, is it several hours sometimes, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this is we quite often commercial flight to different different airport, and then helicopter from there. Or
Okay, so in the matter of scale for an American, it'd be like me getting on a plane in Atlanta, flying to Miami, and then catching a helicopter to go save an animal.
So my geography of America is probably not brilliant, but we're talking, it would not be unusual for a job for us to take a commercial flight 2,000 miles.
Oh God, that's like flying from Atlanta to Denver or Las Vegas, or Los Angeles.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So logistically, that's not like jumping on a fire truck and going down the street to a fire, you have to put together a lot of people and resources.
Absolutely.
Quickly.
So this is why we're based in South Africa, just outside Pretoria, predominantly because that's where most of the work is. So the most of the wildlife is there. In South Africa, Mozambique, Botswana, Tanzania, that kind of area. So helicopter, fixed wing, like I say, sometimes commercial flight if it's because the biggest expense in our work is if we need air travel. So a helicopter is one of the most expensive tools we have. We don't have our own helicopter because it's prohibitively expensive. Much easier to rent one when you need one, which is pretty much every week. But we can take a helicopter for, depending on what country we're in, from $500 to $1,000 for an hour. And these, while they are regular helicopters, Robinsons, Huey type things, the pilots have a very specific skill set. A normal commercial helicopter pilot will be used to going from, one building to an airport, from an airport to a ranch or whatever. Whereas a game capture pilot, it's very low level. It's almost it's almost military in the flying style, because it's very low level, chasing an animal. They're amazing guys, these the game capture pilots.
So
we digress again. We could just keep...
Well, and so I mean, I'm sure people can see your financial statements, your verified sort of 501c3 style in multiple countries. But to make it simple, you're the guy that's writing the bill checks for this stuff. As you told me, you're the director and you're the accountant, so to speak.
Yes.
And without being specific, but do you have a rule of thumb in your mind when you get a call for a Rhino, you're like, okay, this is going to cost us $40,000.
Again,
$10,000. How does that, in your mind, what goes through your mind? Like, this is what I know this is going to cost us.
No, we do because this is how we've raised funds. So if we get a call for a Rhino and it's on a small reserve, it might already be in a boma. So we might just have to get there by road, and then we're literally just down to drugs and our professional time. So could be $1,000. Or if it's a lion in the bush, that's going to be a best case 2 days to find the animal, and then there's definitely a helicopter involved, probably depending on how far it is from where the helicopter can come from. I'd imagine 3 to 6 hours, and then our part in it is the cheapest bit. Drugs and our time and equipment. So a lion in the bush could be $10,000 plus. So and then obviously we take that to social media and put it on social media and say, right, we've got a call. We're going to this elephant. We need $5,000 to do this job. And that's how people raise the funds, that's what they donate towards in those instances, those sort of capital campaigns. So we can quantify as a rule of thumb on most jobs when they come in, and the biggest expense is always airtime.
Mm-hmm. I look forward to a day when you do an NFT within about 5 minutes on Bitclout, because it's so easy.
Absolutely.
It's literally posting a photo and saying, make this an NFT, where you can say, this is a $5,000 NFT that we're going to go get this animal. And I feel like people, especially the whales on this platform, I'm not calling names, but they know who they are, could easily go, I want to be a part of this, and challenge my buddy to do the same and resell it and resell it and resell it.
Yeah.
But,
no, absolutely.
But it's then your task to make it an interesting NFT where people
Yeah,
follow the story. They know what the outcome is. Maybe that NFT is related to this animal and it has another 10 years on this earth or 20 years on this earth, and people can say, I own the NFT that saved that animal.
absolutely. So, for instance, Saya that we discussed before, his initial rescue and relocation would probably cost upwards of $25,000, and then he will then every year cost us, well, probably another $12,000 every year, so another $1,000 a month. So, and and that guy's going to live for another 20 plus years, and he's already had a son, which is amazing, by the way. Something we haven't even talked about yet. That is exactly why we do what we do. It's one thing to save an animal; that animal will then live. It's a completely other thing, and it is exactly what conservation is all about. Is if that animal then goes on to reproduce and add to its population. So, say as we discussed there, 2 years ago had a son.
So then that whale that bought that NFT to save Saya could then get first right to buy the NFT for the son.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's the opportunities are endless. Like I said before, we've been on Bitclout for 46 days. I come from I was super naive about crypto in general, NFTs, everything. It's been such a steep learning curve. However, everybody has wanted to embrace us and help us us understand and learn. And it's just been so welcoming, and everybody's really helped. So
I say let's do it. Your next big one, let's do it on Bitclout. And I'm going to call out Andy Arts and Craig and all these whales because I know they have a heart for this. And let's just get it done. I think it creates news. It's newsworthy outside of the platform and is a new, unique NFT use case that no one's ever used. I think you just do it and quit thinking about it. I'm guilty of paralysis by analysis as much as the next guy, but I think I want to be a part of it. I say, I'm not going to have whale money to put into it, but I'll sure talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't wait to see that happen.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and the opportunities there are obvious. As you said, the opportunities are obvious. One aspect of our work which makes it difficult to fundraise, which is where we obviously are constantly fundraising, is that in a lot of instances we can't report straight away what we're doing because a lot of them are crimes. And you're damn sure that the cartels and their intelligence operatives are watching what we're doing on our social medias. So we do need to be very careful about what we do. So quite often the news on our social media is delayed a little because of the sensitivity around what we're dealing with. At the end of the day, these are crimes. The perpetrators are facing life sentences if they get caught. And these are the equivalent of bank robberies. In the reward to the criminals. These are each rhino represents, I'd say, $300,000 profit for a cartel. So, it's a serious business. That side of it, it's very dangerous and very serious.
Well, I applaud both of you for the work you do. It makes my work seem pretty inconsequential, but I hope that at least we can bring this to more awareness to other people and help you. But and you've won the award for probably the longest conversation we've had on the podcast, rightfully so, because we could keep going. But in the interest of everybody's time, let's adjourn. But I want to do this again. I want to follow up with you guys, and I hope that you'll do an NFT real soon to save an animal, and let's experiment a little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely, brilliant. Thank you very much for having us.
Hey, thank you for joining us, Lisa and Tristan. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.